Good afternoon, everybody. I've got a very special guest today. I've been wanting to speak with this fellow for a long, long time. He was absolutely awesome out on the football field through the 2000s and 2010s, and now he's making some massive inroads for football through men's representative coaching this year, which is a wonderful appointment. And of course, he is the very well-known president of Newcastle City Blues. Please welcome Mr. Courtney Knight to the show. Courtney, thanks for joining us, mate.
Well, thanks for having me, Chop.
Mate, it's great. I've been wanting to have a chat with you for a little while, mate. I always remember you through the late 2000s and through the teens, mate. You're an awesome, formidable individual force for Newcastle City, and I think it always were going to end up somewhere at the top of that club once your playing days were over. So congratulations on everything as a player and what you're doing administration-wise, mate. And personally, what a wonderful appointment, mate. Absolutely thrilled to find out you're taking over coaching the rep side at a time when it dearly needs a legend like yourself. So how did it come about?
Yeah, well, I guess just you're back onto the playing stuff. I think when you finish playing footy, you realise, I guess, how unimportant you were as an individual and how fortunate you were to be a part of a collective. And I think, both in clubland, and from a representative standpoint, was really, really lucky to be a part of a really great group of people. And then, since footy, I love footy like a lot of people do. I really do. And, just try to sort of play a bit of a role in some way, shape or form that I've got the ability to be able to do from a, time and capacity side of things. And a little bit of that's admin from Newcastle City's point of view. And another part of that's with the Swans Academy as well, which has been a real buzz to be a part of. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy working with kids. And I think it's one of those sort of roles where it's a bit of a all care and no responsibility in that, I'm not having to be at heaps of games. I'm not needing to, field, lots of WhatsApp groups and things like that. I rock up on a Monday night with a group of, really talented kids that are really keen and eager to be there, work alongside a handful of coaches that are likewise really keen and eager to be there. And then that's the commitment done largely for the week. So that's fantastic. And, as far as the rep's concerned, I obviously try and keep across what's going on in footy as much as I possibly can. And I've just sort of had a few observations with a lot of guys that I played footy with, and particularly from other clubs as well, had a lot of observations over the last, probably 6 or 8 years. And I just sort of thought I could play a bit of a role there, essentially. And I think that role really is just to try and facilitate an environment that people want to be a part of. It's no more than that. I think, as you said on your episode last week, Mick Ryan, Pete Van Dam and Dave Flynn are really key to that, equally as much as me, in just trying to facilitate an environment that people enjoy being a part of and want to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And representative football in particular, we want to try and, with the rebirth of it just a couple of years ago, particularly with the men's program, we really want to inject a level of prestige into it. When you were playing representative football yourself, it was really quite a pinnacle period for Black Diamond AFL back then. I remember as a player who would love to have been good enough to make a representative side, really having a credible amount of respect for all the players that made it, and almost heralding your own club's players once they come back from a representative weekend. It's something that sort of disappeared a little bit when Rep Footy went away, and we're probably at a little way away from develop or getting to that level again with Rep Footy. But I think the appointment of yourself and having such big names who've been there and done that and know what it's all about, know what can be offered to young players through representative program football, it was really important to get a coaching staff or coach for a start, and then a division of coaches that can really pass that on to the playing group. Was that a fair bit in your mind when it came to taking up the appointment?
Yeah, I guess it was, but a perspective that's really changed with me since I finished playing football is it's really hard to drive that away when it's not being driven by the playing group. So I think our role as administrators and coaches, particularly coaches in a rep program, maybe not so much at a club level, but certainly at a rep program, you're really just trying to facilitate an environment that's being driven by the players.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, as much as I love playing rep footy, and the other three blokes that are involved as well did as well. So rather than just sort of saying, look, we loved it, so you should love it, and
So
we
you
loved it
should
because
too.
of this, and you guys should love the same thing, you really need to work out, you know, what does drive the current playing crop,
Yeah.
what is appealing to the current playing crop.
Yep.
You know, we've tried to go through and have a few discussions around, you know, what hasn't really worked, spoken to a few key players and got their opinion over the sort of things that they liked and didn't like.
Yep.
And just tried to create an environment that people are enjoying it. You know, and I think a big part of that is making sure you've got people there that want to be there, coaches and players alike. So, you know, I'm not judging people if they don't want to be a part of the representative program, but we've got guys there that want to be there. We had really good numbers, strong numbers this week at training. Everyone wanted to be there, and it was fantastic. You know, the footy flew around the park. Some of the chat was fantastic, which
great.
Which you
I've heard that the response has been really good to it this year, and I guess we're 3 years into this redevelopment of the program, so it is starting to build profile to some degree, especially a win the first year and then a loss. And I'm speaking about the men's rep program primarily here. Obviously, maybe there is a little bit of a tweaking of league pride or region pride where we want to come back and make amends for that. And it's a good point that you make about making it player driven, because you can talk to your blue in the face about how good it was back in the day, can't you? But that we live in a very different environment for young people and players. And I know even at club level, you know, the way they approach their footy is vastly different to what it was when we were playing, sort of thing. So I guess there's a little bit of a learning curve for yourself as well to go, all right, so how do I best communicate those type of things without sounding like I'm drumming in? Well, back in my day, it was that sort of attitude.
Well, I certainly need to hold myself back from saying that, because I think that a lot. I think, you know, back in my day, or the club used to do this, or footy used to be like that. But you know, I've never really been a fire and brimstone sort of a coach. Even when I was coaching City, and even when I did the rep side, you know, 10 years ago, I was never that way inclined. I'm not that sort of personality. You know, I'm probably, you know, probably more around preparation and a bit of technical stuff, and I've always been a lot more softly with my colleagues and players alike. So you know, I think my style probably more suits coaching in this era than it did 10 years or so ago. But I just like the idea of you know, treating the particularly representative players, treating those players with respect. I mean, they're guns. They've been there and done that. Even if they're only 21 or 22 years of age, they have been there and done that and proven themselves. So being able to give them a bit of a license to, you know, to do it their way, you know, rather than, you know, this is what we're doing, this is how you do it, and this is what you've got to do. So, well, you know, you're here for a reason. So, you know, let's play with a bit of a license to thrill, and let's have a heap of fun. And if that works, it works. And if it doesn't, we'll go back to the drawing board. But I'm confident that if guys want to be there and guys have got a license to play, they want to play, I'm confident we can do well next Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's exactly how you want representative football to be. You want the people who are turning up to want to really play there, and that you already know those players have bought into that sense of pride or ownership over the region itself. So I think that's a great way for it to be able to slowly build to where we'd like it to be. Can I ask a little bit about your selection process in the end? I imagine you're getting enough numbers up there this year to actually quite literally have a selection process. It's building in popularity. I know there's some great buzz around the place about the representative program this year, and it is starting to pay off. I think a bit of extra interest that, you know, people like myself and Ash and the other people in the media are starting to show it, and really talk about it like it's an important thing. Then you've got to deal with, I guess, some pretty proud players who might not be successful. How's your selection process? Do you look at much of maybe the team of the year selection last year? Does that come into play? Are you getting out and having a look at games around the place in the first few rounds?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few new people around the traps now that I haven't played with and coached against and so forth. So part of my strategy in year one was to engage with those people. So
I like that year one, mate. That's another
yeah,
question later. That suggests there could be more than one?
it certainly does. Yeah, well, I
Oh,
mean,
good.
that's the plan, but I mean, it needs to work for everyone. So I'm not getting any too far ahead of myself. But year one, we just sort of said, look, because we had to also pick the team early as well, because
Yeah.
the game's earlier than it usually is. So we didn't have a lot of time to look at a heap of players. So we said that if you made the team of the year last year, you were in the rep team last year, you're automatically, selected in the squad. And then we just got in contact with all the coaches and said, well, who do you think? So we ended up with a pretty big squad, in the 60s, which is absolutely fine.
Wow. That's great. And did you get a majority of those come to a session?
Yep. Pretty much got engagement. It got engagement from we certainly got engagement from all the clubs. Yeah.
Yep. Tremendous.
And then we've had about 40 train.
Yep.
Bit over 40 train across the first fortnight.
God, that's great.
And then engagement from most of the other guys individually to say that the reasons why they couldn't train. There's a handful of injuries. Unfortunately, this early in the season, there's still a handful of injuries.
Yeah,
and
right.
So we've trimmed the squad down today to the high 20s.
Right.
And then that squad will train next Wednesday night before we pick the team. We just want to have a look at a couple on the weekend. Yep. Obviously, City's playing Warners Bay. That'll be an exciting one. Yep. There's a couple of guys under injury clouds as well. So that's how we've gone. One sort of philosophy that I really had from the outset was the best ability is availability. And so if you weren't available, then, really don't think that, a short program is for you. So, there's a handful of guys that are probably good enough to be in the top 22 that have missed out, even though they were keen. They've missed out because they haven't been able to train. And that's tough. I don't like that authoritarian angle, but I think it's respectful of the players that have been there and put the effort in, whether they were going to miss out or not. I think the squad that we'll pick and the team that we'll end up picking appreciates the effort that everyone's gone into to be there.
It is the only way for it to be equitable and also for the profile and the credibility of the rep program to go in the right direction. If it looks like there's handouts going to players based upon reputations rather than effort put in, it's not really honouring, I think, what the representative program's all about. So I'm very pleased to hear that in that respect. And you also know that the ones that are going to turn up are 100% there, aren't they? Do you think on account of that, the short program and maybe just limited number of training sessions that they can have, will you look at trying to expand that perhaps in the years to come, and make it, I guess, an easier thing to be a part of? Or is it one of those things where it's a short program, let's see how committed you are in that short period of time?
Yeah, well, like at this stage, my thought is probably not. If anything, maybe tighten the squad size next year and only have another 2 or 3 week lead into a game.
Yep.
But we'll just see how it goes. I've got a very clear flavour and game plan. It's not overly complicated, but very, very clear flavour and game plan. I think if that comes off, I don't see a huge amount of benefit in drawing out the commitment to players much longer than 2 or 3 weeks.
Sure.
But if it doesn't come off and we need to get more cohesion and we need to, work on a few things strategically, then we might need to drag that out a little bit longer. But as I said, the best ability is availability. And if that commitment's a 6-week commitment, it's going to be very difficult for guys to be available across a 6-week period. But yeah, I guess, jumping back to your question about more than 1 year, once again, absolutely not getting too far ahead of myself. And if it doesn't work for one reason or another, I'm absolutely fine with that, because I just want the program to be successful. But my idea was to try and get engagement and get a bit of passion and pride into the competition this year. Get the respect and understanding and dialogue between the coaches. Be a little bit more tailored next year with the squad and sort of make a few tough decisions before we get everyone to training, with a view to hopefully be successful on the park for those 2 years, and in year 3 try and get in front of a big scalp. So I'd love to play the Riverina.
Yep.
I'd love to play a Sydney development side of some sort, or a Canberra development side. I think that'd be ideal, because I think at our best, and if we can play the brand of footy that's sort of synonymous to our region, I reckon we can smack a few opponents around and give it a real shake.
Look, we've got the Black Diamond AFL itself has got actually quite an impressive history. If you look back over our representative programs over the last 20 odd years, we've been right there amongst it. We've beaten some really big quality regions in terms of football. We've done well in country championships, and we, even the one-off games from time to time, we hold our own in that respect. So it's safe to say we've got a very proud history. I think one of the great things that you've done here is looked into the rep program from really honest eyes, from a perspective of obviously nostalgia and knowing what our history is, but also looking at that with a plan for more than just a fill-in season, which is largely what it has been in the first 2 years. And granted, we're trying to reintroduce it, of course. So for you to come in and then bring in a team of legends as well is a really great message to the players who probably largely been it's been a really, I don't want to use the word divided, but everyone's sort of been left to their own devices greatly, each club, because of coming off the back end of COVID and the change of administration. So this is really one of those great moments in league rebuilding where we can show that, right, we might try and beat each other senseless on Saturdays and get the 4 points, but we're all in it together when it comes to building a competition. And to have the notables that you've got on there, I just find it's a beautiful thing, because those guys would have you, yourself included, you would have had some remarkable tussles with your coaching staff on the field. But now to come together and try and build this thing that is really galvanizing for the entire league, and I think it needs it desperately at the moment, it's just a great standard and a great message. And I think that itself is going to go a long way to filtering the right, ethos to your playing group this year.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, sort of getting back in behind the curtains of another club, it really breaks down some barriers. I mean, when I moved to Newcastle in the late 90s, this is actually my 30th year, coincidentally, of being involved in footy since we've moved to Newcastle. And so when I started, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we were rare. Footballers were rare. And so we'd go and you'd literally beat the shit out of your opponent on a Saturday afternoon, and you wouldn't have anything to do with them. And then when I started playing some rep footy as an adult, you sort of think, I think this guy's a dickhead because he wears cheese and beetroot. But I've actually got more in common with him than I do my mates from school, because because of this common love of footy that we've got.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it just breaks down some of those barriers, and I think probably a little sort of secret over the last fortnight that I think I think it encapsulates this really well is I thought last week we had a lot of talent. Week 1 at training, we had a lot of talent. There was probably 20, 26, 27 players at training. Lots of talent there, but it was a bit quiet, a little bit quiet. There looked like some, astute players in the group, but no one, overly vocal. No one, from my first impressions anyway, was sort of an out and out, big chest thumping leader. And I thought we've got to get some people involved in this that are on the field that have got that sort of leadership. And so Pete Van Dam and Bish and I sort of had a bit of a chat, and we said Corey Billings is the man.
Yep.
And then I went away and had a think, and I thought, well, Max Quinlan's the man. And so neither of those two were in our sights a month ago, and neither of those two were in the squad of 60. Right. And I thought, well, why are you so respected in your own club? Not forget about what the reputation is. Why are you so respected in your own club? And they're all the things that you want in rep footy as well. So I called them both, and they were thrilled. And I said, look, I can't promise you anything. I can't promise you a thing, but I'd love for you to be there. I'd love for you to, just bring Corey, bring your Terrigal self. Maxi, bring your Newcastle City self, roll it out, and we'll see where it lands. And right from the warm-up lap, the whole atmosphere changed.
Isn't that great?
I think they had a bit of a dig at each other. They both knew what the script was. I think they had a little bit of a dig at each other, and the voice improved by 100% from last week. So, I think that's an example of what you say, that you go and you beat the shit out of each other, and I think Corey Billings has probably laid a few on some of our blokes, and I'm sure Max has said some stupid things to their blokes over the years as well. But they're doing it for their team because they're
Yeah.
passionate about their team. They're playing a really important role in their team. If they can do that for a rep side,
Yep.
they're showing to everyone else around the league that, hang on, we are good people. We are good footy people. We're good, teammates, and it's great.
It's funny, isn't it, that sometimes the most parochial and vocal and, let's go with colourful, sometimes controversial characters out on the field are the ones that can be the market leaders when it comes to actually breaking barriers down and bringing everybody together. There's no doubt Maxi and Corker are two of the most vibrant out there. And certainly where we sit every week watching it, we can pick that right away. And I totally relate to everything you've said there. I know you can be one-eyed for your club all through your playing years as much as you like. But I've found from sitting in the commentary box, I've made great friends at every single club, and I have a genuine soft spot for everybody in the league now, to the point where your loyalties are almost blurred at times, because I've gotten to know so many people at the different clubs. At every club I've discovered since doing what I do now, it wouldn't have mattered where I landed in New South Wales. I would have found a wonderful home at any of the football clubs that are in our region. And it's a thing that you just do not accept while you're a football player at all, no matter what. But all of a sudden you grow up and you get beyond that and you stay involved with football in levels like that we are. And you go, wow, it really is a great game. It really does bring us all together at the end of the day. So I know certainly watching what's starting to come into fruition. I know I think it was about 2 or 3 seasons ago when they first started talking about Rep Footy coming back. It was something that I called out from time to time, saying, geez, it'd be great to see some former Rep legends all come together. And it's almost like a dream come true for me, seeing who you've pulled together for it. And now I'm very confident that it'll be a great squad that comes together, and they will galvanise and they'll go back and take some really important history back to their teammates when they go back to club level, and sort of start to build the profile of this representative football again, like it was, all through the 2000s. So.
Yeah, and I hope further to that. I completely agree with you. I hope further to that. This year's opportunity to have an extended squad meant that there was 4 to 6 or more in some cases players from each club, in as a part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Some less experienced players, some younger players.
Right.
So hopefully they take some of those experiences back to their club as well. Hopefully they've learned a little bit on the track as well, which we've tried to make sure that we sort of tried to teach some of those guys a bit as well without getting too technical. We sort of were pretty hell bent on that. But hopefully they can take some of those things back to their club. They can be better players, and they can they can help improve the rest of their club as well.
Yep. That was leading me to one of the next questions. So there has been a good spread right across the clubs. And I'm speaking about men's division, I guess, primarily here, of course, because Kate Hanley's in charge of the women's again this year, which is great news. I believe their side was announced this week too. So we'll follow that up a little bit later this week. But yeah, I've noticed from watching, obviously, at times there's a bit of a disparity between where the level of where some clubs are to the next. But I think as a general rule, the league's moving in the right direction. But every club has got some genuine stars where they are on that same tier as the best players in every club at the end of the day. So I guess what I'm asking is, did we get a good spread from a good representation from all the clubs this year?
Oh, absolutely. I think there'll be in the side, there'll be someone from every club, and that wasn't deliberate. That's the reality.
Genuinely fought their way into that spot. That's great.
So and
good comment on the league, isn't it, and where we're at?
Well, I think what it sort of highlights to me is it's probably more the depth rather than the top end talent, and I don't think that's always been the case. So I think the top end talent's pretty consistent, and particularly after week 1 when there wasn't so much voice and it was just the kicking and catching that was telling the story. It was very, very hard to split the squad. And so if you didn't know, you wouldn't know who was from what club. It was a bit different this week because a few personalities came out, and we did a little bit more positional based stuff. But last week in particular, you wouldn't know, and that's really good. And I think probably something that's changed since you and I were playing Chop was the general fitness level of the players is a lot higher. So, back 25 years ago, there were some good players here, there and everywhere at every club, but typically the weaker clubs, they weren't training as hard, and the good players were probably being out in the paddock a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Whereas now they're all fit. They're all fit at
Yeah.
every club. I went and watched City and Cardiff out at Cardiff a couple of weeks ago, and Cardiff were a long way off the pace, but they were fit. They were fit. All their kids had really good skills, which is remarkable. And they're heading in the right direction. Whereas,
Yeah.
as I said, 20 years ago, if the same scoreline happened, it'd be a bunch of 35-year-olds running around in circles.
Yeah.
So the league makeup has changed significantly. I'm super impressed by it. I think the coaching standards increased significantly as well.
Yeah, terrific.
And I think that's reflected in the side that we'll go away with next week.
That's wonderful news, mate, because that's exactly what we want. I guess year in, year out, you wonder where you sort of, it's hard to measure where is our progress going. Are we going in that right direction? But I guess when you look at a few different areas that you can gauge that on, representative football selection is one of those things. Then you get a fair idea about, are we going forward as a league? Are we going forward as a football community? Or are we staying stagnant? And I think this year in particular just feels like there's been some really good decisions made in the off season. The admin have attended to a few things that really needed to be looked at and made some good calls in that respect. And there just seems to be a really good, I guess, amenity right across the league this year. It's always nice to boast an extra club. It's always nice to boast promotion of teams and clubs like that. And we seem to have had a fair bit of that this year moving into it. So it's a good time.
Spot on. And I think you can't not talk about the junior base. I think that, I really look at any sort of sport, whether you're talking about rugby union and the Wallabies, or whether you're talking about local footy in the Hunter. It's a pyramid. And if you want the pointy end of your pyramid to be sharp, you've got to make sure you've got a big base. We've got really good Auskick numbers across the region. We've got really good junior numbers across the region. The professionalism in the representative program at a local level now is fantastic. The carnival they play up at Coffs Harbour and the program that the kids go to be taught elite football at that level is fantastic. And the Swans Academy and all of those northern academies are just getting more and more elite as well. So our junior base, not only is it growing in numbers,
spread too, aren't they?
Yep.
They're covering more and more ground, and more kids are getting exposed in the benefit of that sort of umbrella.
Yep, exactly. So then when you're getting a 16, 17, 18-year-old ready-made senior player, either a girl or a boy, they've been through all of these programs, they've had all of these different experiences, and they're just so much further advanced than the same sort of age player 10 or 15 years ago. So there's good professionalism at the top level. Yes, there's the kids are fitter, or the adults in the seniors are fitter and faster and more skillful, and yes, the coaching's getting better. But I put a lot of it down to the juniors and the way the junior program has improved so much. So I think it'd be it wouldn't be right for me not to make that really strong point. So it's good. A couple of good things being done at senior level, but I put a lot of it down to what's happening at junior level.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You go back a couple of decades ago in New South Wales, and you're lucky to get a dad taking over a bit of coaching who may have played at the old rugby league game or something like that. It's because there was no one around. But now we've got things like I know here at Central Coast Sports Academy, we've got Swans Academy specialised coaching, and it's in nearly all of the schools as well. So maybe we were born in the wrong era, mate. Perhaps. The good thing is we've come out of that era, so we know things that on I guess how to make it better too, and how to make the experience more enjoyable. So
that's right. Yeah, in a highly competitive market.
When can we expect to see a men's side announced? Will that be after next training session?
No, well, we'll name or we'll announce an extended squad this afternoon. I think that's right. 29 man squad this afternoon, and then we'll sharpen the pencil over after the weekend, and we'll name that we've got a presentation after training on Wednesday night of the 22.
Great. So, can we get CC'd on that when that's released? We'd love to make a bit of a deal out of it and have a bit of discussion over it.
Yeah, I might have to leave something on your desk. Little inside
Wonderful,
scoop.
mate. Thank you. That's great. But I won't take any more of your time. I want to make sure I get this interview out there. But there's more questions I'd love to ask. Do you reckon you'll have time between now and the carnival, maybe to do an update, perhaps when the final side's announced?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Brilliant. Thanks, mate. I've been wanting to have a chat with you. The Knights are obviously such a famous name up there in Newcastle. Newcastle's always such a benchmark standard in local footy, as much as everyone likes to, gun for Newcastle. The club is run so well. The people are wonderful there. And it's great to see the very head of that looking after our Rep Carnival. I think there's nothing but good things ahead for Rep Footy, and take nothing away from previous coaching staff and whatnot. They've done a wonderful job given the resources they've had, but I think right now we're going to go in a really positive direction. And it's great to hear the way that you think, mate, that all-encompassing kind of looking at every aspect, from the way the juniors work to how the program's going to fit in, and even letting it be player-driven. I think that's just some really great incentives and a great attitude and ethic towards it.
Terrific. Well, I appreciate your support, Chop, and it's been good to have a chat.
Thanks, mate. If you find out that there's a spot on the commentary panel out there for the Rep Carnival, let me know. I'll be on the first Greyhound to come in and fill in.
Yeah,
Otherwise, thanks, mate. Otherwise, I'll enjoy watching it. Wish you all the best, mate. I'll contact you next week. Let's have another chat before you head off to the carnival. We're right behind you this year, Courtney. Thanks so much, mate, for taking on. And wish the boys in your coaching staff all the best to me as well. It's great seeing Pete Van Dam buzzing about Rep again. So,
it is. He's fantastic. Yeah. It's like you wind him up in the middle of his back, and he just goes.
I've caught up with him a few times over the years for a beer on a Friday night, and he didn't have a lot of goods to say about Rep, especially when it wasn't around. But geez, he's up and about it all over again. And I told him, he didn't want to believe me before. I said, but you'll be involved in Reps one day. So I think he's pretty happy about it.
Yeah, no, he's a man for the job.
Yep. Good on you, Courtney. All the best, mate. Can't wait to hear more from it. And I think we're in good hands, that's for sure.
Terrific. Thanks, mate. Good to chat.
Thanks, mate. Speak soon.
Cheers.
That was great. I've been wanting to talk with Courtney Knight for a long, long time, and great to finally get a chance to do that. He was a wonderful football player and an incredible servant for his club up there at Newcastle City Blues. They're always up on top. And now I think the representative program for our men is in the best hands possible. So we wish him and all the players all the best, and looking forward to seeing that side come out. Thanks for joining us. I'm back again tonight with 4 players for the big clash for the match of the round tomorrow. So 2 Killarney Vale Bombers and 2 Terrigal Avoca Panthers. So you want to watch this. It'll be fireworks for sure. Thanks for joining us.